It's round 12 of the Betfred Super League, and there's only one show online that provides the build-up deserving of the great game of Rugby League. On tonight's show, what should have been a classic has descended into a cakewalk. Only one thing is certain: it will be a repeat win for the Robins tonight against the Warriors. Then on Friday, get ready for a real contest at the LSV. Old heroes return, both teams hold playoff ambitions, and this game is a game that neither could afford to lose. Whilst at Headingley, we have a Yorkshire derby as Leeds Rhinos look to make it 2 from 2 against the Giants this year. Can Huddersfield Giants' new coach have the cowbells ringing, or will the Rhinos have them for dinner? Saturday sees a triple header starting at 3 p.m. at the One Ball Stadium. Forget Disney on ice, we have Bambi's on grass as Mapapalangi and Robertson collide for what is sure to be a sidestep fest. At 5 p.m, Wakefield Trinity travel to Toulouse to face French opposition for the second week running. Can they destroy Olympic as they did the Dragons, or will Toulouse start better, play for the full 80 and maybe, just maybe, get a win? Bringing the curtain down on Super League on Super Saturday is the Knights and the Dragons. Both teams are desperate for a win, with an epic clash between Fartape and Wood just one of many tussles to make your takeaway a little bit more tasty. And then finally on Sunday, you know his name, and his performances have shaken and stirred everybody this year. Can Wonga Blake inspire the Bulls to a famous win at the Warrington Wolves? In-depth analysis, passionate debate, and round 12 predictions. It's time for the Captain's Run.
It is indeed time once again for the Captain's Run, and joining me this week, as always, Mr. Sell. Welcome back, mate. Happy days. Round number 12 this season is flying by, mate.
It is, yeah. Already nearly halfway there, aren't we? And it's been a great season so far, so long may it continue.
Long may it continue. An interesting captain's run today, because it's, of course, a bit of an imbalanced top, pretty much playing bottom sides, this with the exception, of course, of KR and Wigan. But yeah, very, very split. And, of course, the York and the Catalan one a little bit out. But apart from those two games, it really is a split top versus bottom. Let's take a look at the league table where we left it. And as you can see there, the Giants still at the bottom on 4 points. Then it's Toulouse and the Knights, the Tigers, Bulls and Hull FC then on 8 points before we get to the Dragons in 8th on 10th. Then we go into the top 7. Leopards now just outside the top 6. Then it's the Warriors, Trinity, Robins, Wolves, Rhinos and Saints leading Super League, Steph. It's been an incredible start to the Paul Rowley era, it has to be said. Going really, really well. Deservingly top at the moment, or do you think fortuitous based on the way the season has panned out with people, of course, perhaps losing games that maybe they shouldn't have done?
I think Saints have done really well to be top. You know, we forget they had injuries, didn't they, at the beginning of the season. He's had some right dilemmas with his squad. Obviously, getting a lot of those back now. But I think Matty Lees was a big one for them, wasn't he? And obviously having to bring some younger lads through and some loanees as well. But they played most of the sides in Super League now, haven't they? And no one can deny that they've had the most wins. So they're doing very well under the new stewardship of Paul Rowley.
Indeed. Right, let's get into the games. And, of course, we always go in reverse order on the Captain's Run. So we're going to start with the Sunday fixture of course, Warrington Wolves hosting the Bradford Bulls. And I don't apologise for really giving Wonga Blake a little bit of the James Bond treatment. It's fair to say, Steph, that Blake this season has been exemplary thus far for the Bradford Bulls. And there's no doubt he is their real player in form, isn't he, on that left edge?
Yeah, he causes a lot of trouble for them, especially in attack, and gives defensives a lot to think about. And it's a bit like when Harry Smith went out the Wigan squad, the form dropped off a bit. When Blake went out, and I know there was other players as well for Bradford, they've had another run of bad injuries. But there's no doubt he's their strike player. And when he's in their team, then they've got every chance of beating a lot of teams in Super League.
Couldn't agree with you more. Been very, very pleased. And actually, let's also look at another player who, before the season started, nobody had thought that Wonga Blake would have done what he's done in the opening rounds of Super League. He's been absolutely exemplary, and we, of course, have been really right behind him, haven't we? Right, pretty much from the first couple of rounds when it was crystal clear that he was taking his second stab at Super League with both hands. But another player that's come into Super League this year is Josh Smith, who Sam Burgess is preferring. We'll come back to that one in a moment. Who is preferring at the moment to Hopoate in the centre role. And when you look at these two players side by side, and they will be going head to head because they're both on that side, and I expect both of these two players to play on Sunday. The statistics are phenomenal. Josh Smith's played 8. Wonga Blake has played 7. Of course, he's been out injured a few times. Both have scored 6 tries. Blake has made 3 to Josh Smith's 1. Tackle bust 25-20 in Blake's favour. Breaks 7-2 in Smith's favour. But Smith getting through some incredible work in backfield, 142 carries for 979 metres. Blake, 91 carries for 687, which is equally impressive, Steph. For me personally, these two players absolutely in great form. And for me, this is going to be a really good tussle.
Yeah, and I think Smith's meter's slightly up there. He's played a few games on the wing, I think, for Warrington, hasn't he? So obviously doing a bit of carrying from the kicks. But yeah, they've both been great. Really impressed with Smith at Warrington. I think he's been a really good signing for them. And those tries are really good returns, aren't they, for both those players? Yep. So it's going to be an interesting battle between these two. Who can cope with each other the best? I think Smith probably edges him. I've been really impressed with Smith this year at Warrington, and I think Warrington's back line is a bit more dangerous as well. And it's interesting because you put Hopoate on the wing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, Josh Smith has been predominantly playing centre since Kai Taylor-Ray's got out and they've had to move things around. Smith's playing the centre position as opposed to wing. Hopoate's been out on the wing since Wigan, actually. Hopoate went out in the Wigan game and has stayed out there since, and Josh Smith has come in. I mean, I would go as far as I understand what he's saying there about Smith, but we've got to also take into account the personnel that are surrounding these players, and that what makes for me Wonga Blake's performance is even more impressive because imagine Wonga Blake in the Warrington side based on this kind of form. What those stats could be then. So I get your point. I think Smith has been a very, very good signing, a very, very good signing for Warrington. And I don't think many Warrington fans would have felt he would have been as good as he's been for Warrington. It's very, very close. This one for me on the weekend, this is going to be a belting tussle. Really good tussle.
Yeah, definitely. And I think probably Blake stands out a bit more in that Bradford side because you've got so much quality in that Warrington. You Matty Ashtons and your Hopoate. I mean, it's still bizarre, isn't it? He's putting Hopoate on the wing and Smith in the centre, but it's working. And before the season, you would never have picked that. But yeah, like I say, Blake does stand out a bit like Joe Miller's stood out in that Bradford side as well. Another team with lots of injuries, but great to see him back and good to see him playing against Warrington this weekend.
Couldn't agree with you more, mate. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, look, Bradford, the last time they got any win at Warrington was all the way back in 2009, a 21-10 win. It's a long, long time between drinks for Bradford at the wire. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape. Something new now, because we're that far into the season, we can start to do this because, we're getting some real stats now to compare and contrast. A lot of stats on the screen. Apologies to the podcasters out there. We will probably pick up on some of these. And of course, it's 3rd against 10th. Warrington, 4 wins in the last 5, 1 win in the last 5 for the Bradford Bulls. And I think the first thing to talk about here, Steph, when we're comparing and contrasting these two teams, is probably that for and against for both teams. And actually, it's almost predicting the scoreline. Warrington have averaged 29 points for. Bradford have averaged 27 against. And then Warrington have averaged 14 conceded and Bradford have scored 18. So somewhere in that gives you a bit of an indication of, if we're going off stats and stats alone, it's probably going to be a 29-15 win or thereabouts, or 30 points to 15 win for Warrington. We know it's not as straightforward as that, but it is quite interesting to compare and contrast those statistics that it's almost the results there, isn't it?
Yeah, and it probably won't be a million miles away from what we both predict, I feel, in this one. However, what I would say in that is that, Bradford have gone through that tough period. They've got some players back now, and I expect them to be a lot more competitive, more like that we saw at the start of the season. As we go on through the season now, barring any more injuries, I think that the one that really stands out for me on the stats here, and where it could be Bradford's downfall in this game, is the errors and penalties.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to give Warrington possession through silly penalties and making mistakes, then Warrington will punish them. It's as simple as that, and it's quite a big gap there. In terms of the errors, it's nearly double the amount Bradford are making. So that's one to watch out for. On what will be
Just
a
on
dry
that,
track.
Steph, just before you, just to clarify for the podcasters, that's 40. There's 49 more errors to because obviously the podcasters can't see it. 120 errors for Bradford, 71 for Warrington, 81 penalties for Bradford, 56 Warrington. That's where Steph's going with this. Back over to you, Steph.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a dry track this weekend. So hopefully, from a Bradford perspective, that error count should come down a little bit. But they really need to be on with the discipline, and I think a lot of those pens have come from getting up to speed in Super League, and a lot of teams, even the established Super League teams, have took a while to get used to the speed of the ruck. Bradford even more so, with a lot of Championship players that have come up into Super League. So again, because of what they've been through already, I expect that pen count the average penalties they concede to start come down a bit. But there's no doubt in this one they're going to have to be at their best to beat Warrington at the Halliwell Jones.
Yeah, and again, just picking out a couple of other stats as well as we take a look at this tail of the tape between these two sides. I think what's interesting at Warrington for a long time, since the Tony Smith era, have been an offloading side, and they have been. And I think what's really interesting this year is where they rank in terms of offloads in Super League. And even against Bradford, Bradford 102 offloads thus far this season to Warrington Wolves is 76. Warrington aren't playing as, I won't say they are playing expansive rugby league. They're playing on the edges. They've scored some wonderful tries, but they've toned. They toned down. I mean, the Josh Fewley one in the Challenge Cup was an absolute shocker. But in the main, I think Warrington have toned that down a little bit. So that's an interesting thing to take out of this. But the other interesting thing to take out of this is the card situation. Warrington 5 yellow cards this season in Super League, 1 red card for the Bradford Bulls. So the discipline element a lot better for Bradford. So like I say, that's an interesting one for Sam Burgess and his coaching staff to be, I'm sure, looking at. But again, you look down that clean break, 66-41 in Warrington's favour. They're out tackle busting the Bradford Bulls by 16. You do feel that Warrington will have too much strike power in this game, don't you?
Yeah, and it's interesting what you mentioned with the cards there, because that could be, an open door for Bradford in this game. If Wire do get a man down for 10 minutes, then that could allow Bradford to just sneak in and maybe get a bit of momentum. And I think that's the danger what Warrington have got to watch for, because if Bradford get a sniff in this game and they believe, the belief starts to set in with them, then Warrington could be in for a tough day. So I think Warrington, like I said, on the errors and pens for Bradford, Warrington have got to be careful not to, shoot themselves in the foot in this game. They're going to have to be on it, and if they are on it, then they should win this game. But they can't allow stupid yellow cards to cost them.
Well, Danny Walker from dummy half, of course, the second highest, dummy half runner in Super League this year behind Jez Litton with, I think it's 57. But yeah, I mean, like I say, Warrington's offload, the second lowest in Super League. Only Castleford Tigers have offloaded least. And like I say, Warrington fans that have watched them over the years will know that is that's not been the Warrington blueprint. So there's no doubt that they have reined that in this season. Right, great game, of course. Sunday, 3:00. What's there not to like about a 3:00 kickoff on a Sunday? Those in attendance, hopefully a lot of Bradford Bulls fans make the pilgrimage. And if you are making the pilgrimage, you Bradford Bulls fans out there, then what you desperately need to do is you need to get yourself to the Bluebell. That's right. So a pre-game event with Super League Raw at the Bluebell. Get yourself down there. These are all the details that you need. We will be posting it on our social media channels. Award-winning Sunday lunches, but you're going to have to book them, okay? So if you fancy an award-winning Sunday lunch before the game, we're in there. We're having Sunday lunch this weekend. Why not come and join us? It's an award-winning Sunday lunch. They do turkey, lamb, beef, gammon, take your pick. You can have 3 meets if you want. Absolutely banging Sunday lunches down at the Bluebell. Live music and Super League Raw live from 1 p.m. on the day. It's going to be a great, great occasion. So if you're a Bradford Bulls fan heading down to the Hallowell Jones this Sunday, come and join Super League Raw at the home of Super League Raw, the Bluebell in Warrington. Right, Steph, time for predictions, my friend. I'm going wire 24. What are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to go for a wire win. I think it might be a little bit closer than that. I'm going wire 18.
You're going 18, a try less, but both go in the wire nonetheless. So that's very interesting indeed. So there you go. First one out of the way. We now go to Saturday again in reverse order. 8 o'clock kickoff. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. You know, you get your takeaway, curry, Chinese, pizza, whatever. Doesn't matter. It'll taste far sweeter with a game of Super League on the telly. And this little beauty's for you there. York Knights taking on the Catalan Dragons. Oh, yes. And it's for Tarpe taking on Sam Wood. Sam Wood very good in defeat last week against the Castleford Tigers. And for Tarpe has been one hell of a player. Before we get into this, caught up with Mark Applegarth, and of course, for those who watched the Castleford game last week, you'll have seen that George Hurst has got a ban, well, that was the first point of call really in the conversation that I had. Actually, no, what am I about? No, that's coming later. Mark Applegarth's a different kind of fish. That's coming later with Ryan Carr. I don't know where I'm going with that one. We start with Mark Applegarth. Here we go. Let's see what Mark had to say. I'm getting too giddy. It's all this talk of pizzas and Chineses. Here we go. Here comes Mark Applegarth and his thoughts going into this big game against the Dragons. Here we go.
Thank you. David, best of last night.
Well, we'll go that far. Just going back to Lewis Dodd. Obviously, he had a bit of a torrid time, didn't he, down under? But I've seen a different Lewis Dodd for Catalan. He seems to be taking the line on. He seems to be a more confident player at 7. Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, listen, knowing Doddy how he is, he's always been a talent, and he'll be a lot better person for the experiences that he had in Australia. He's got a lovely left foot step on him. If you ask me what his superpower is, I'd say his running game. He's got a lovely running game on him, and that's definitely something you've got to be aware of. He's also got a great kicking and passing game on him, but I think any great player and good player go through struggle at some point. You know, we all go through it in life, and I think the people that succeed are the people that don't quit in the struggle, they carry on going. You know, a lot of people probably don't realise how close they are to achieving what they want because of the pain that they're feeling in the intermediate or the immediate. You know, I think Doddy will carry on going as he is, and he's getting his rewards for the hard work that he's putting in. And you know, he's still young himself. He's, you know, easily got another 10, 12 years in front of him, and yeah, he's going to be a top half for them years to come for sure.
Obviously, you've mentioned who's going to be absent this week. I thought King running Yayawa at the weekend on both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively, was a real positive for you. You see, again, you must be delighted with that.
Oh, it's fantastic. I was so pleased for King too. You know, to play 40 minutes straight in the middle at the quality that he did takes some doing. And for King personally, it's so pleasing to see him get his rewards. Obviously, he's come into the clubs, York, Newcastle, and kept his head down after going through an administration at his previous club. And he came in and just wanted to get back to enjoying his rugby, and yeah, it's been fantastic to see. And I'm glad that you're seeing a guy, just linking back to my previous point, that's gone through a bit of struggle, and he got his reward, and he'll continue to do so.
Yeah, and then lastly for me, but Sam Wood again was good at the weekend, but that edge could be a great battle between him and Solomon Fatape. I mean, Fatape has really caught my eye for Catalan. That should be a great battle, shouldn't it, between those two?
Yeah, I think I mean, both edges have got some strike on them, haven't they? But definitely, Fatape versus Woody should be a great matchup. Love Woody. I thought he played some really good centre play on the weekend. Especially to set that try up. Lovely into out, and he's definitely going to have to be on point defensively as well. And yeah, it's sort of thing that you want to tune in and watch, isn't it? Is two good edges, two good centres going at each other, and who can come out on top on the evening? It's whoever nails it for that 80 minutes, isn't it?
Well, we'll find out. Good luck, mate. All the best.
We will indeed find out. Always speaks well, does Mark Applegarth, I have to say. I mean, it's a belting little tussle, this. I thought Sam, I mean, do you know what I thought would it? I mean, he was very close, wasn't he, to getting a proper job done on his ex-team there at the weekend to try and assist. He had a wonderful game. More so in defence. I mean, he had those couple of moments of quality in terms of those two finishes. But after that, his running game, perhaps not as many meters as he normally would get, but his defensive game on the edge was very, very strong. And he's coming up against a player who, if you, again, Steph, just cast your mind back to last weekend, the opening 15 minutes for Tarpe had a field day against Trinity. Trinity had a real problem. They managed to curtail him in the end, but I mean, if you want to see the danger of Tarpe, just watch the first 15 minutes of last week's game against Trin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen him firsthand twice this season with my team, Lee, and he's a phenomenal player. He's very testing you like for me, similar kind of Conrad Hurrell kind of style. He poses. He's got a bit of speed, but he's also so strong. And like you say, I think him and Wood going toe to toe is going to be a fascinating tussle this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it, I have to say. I mean, I just love a Saturday night game. What's not to like about a Saturday night game at 8 o'clock? I mean, this is how it should be. We've got a genuine triple header on Saturday. They've got the kickoff times. It's a genuine triple header, isn't it? 1 at 3, 1 at 5, 1 at 8. Happy days, yeah. Just kick back, relax, get the cold ones in the fridge. Happy days, mate. Right, let's get into the squads. And now this is it. And look, I mean, the problem that York have got is they have got some massive, massive absentees going into this game. They really are desperate. You'll see there that Paul Vaughan's out this week. No Jesse D. He's going to have an extended period as well on the sidelines. And that's a real problem for York, for me, going into this game. There's a lot of key personnel that are missing in that side. And that is going to be a real headache. I mean, we mentioned there King Runiyawa, who I felt was exemplary. The King, loved him at Salford, was in a few team of the weeks when he was down at Salford. That was proper Salford form from the King last week, and they're going to need him to be very, very good indeed. Xavier Var as well, who's had a really good season, perhaps not as good last week, but again, has had glimpses. Those two, for me, they need to have monster games. They'll be, of course, buoyed by Danny Richardson. He's back in there, which might give them a little bit of a more managerial in the house. I think Cody Hunt has been good, don't get me wrong, but I think Danny has shown throughout his career that he's capable of really managing a game well. As for the Catalan Dragons, for the purposes of the podcast, it's looking pretty good. No Tommy Makinson, mind you. He's not there. Nick Kotrick and Solomon Fatape, they are. Toby Sexton's there as well. Also, no Lewis Dodd. So that's a problem. I'm not saying that Catalan have got it all their own way here. They certainly haven't. They've got their own injury problems as well. But of course, Steph, as you look at that and pick out, by all means, what you want to pick out from those two squad lists, there's the John Cartwright factor that has also gone over there as well. There are some key players missing, but it does look to me that, again, unfortunately for York, there's some big holes there. Yes,
absolutely. And I think from a Catalan point of view, the one I'd pick out missing is Boucher, especially when Vaughan's not playing. That is obviously a massive one for York, but I think equally so for Catalan. Throw into the mix, Dodd missing, which has been a catalyst for Catalan and everything good they've done this year alongside Sexton. Yeah. Then they've got their own problems, and obviously on the road as well. We know that travelling can be an issue for Catalan. I think at the beginning of the season, this is definitely one York will have ring-fenced as a potential 2-pointer for them, where they would have a decent fighting chance. I'm really looking forward to Matatafa going against Charlie Staines. Yeah. I think that could be a really good, the Battle of the Wands there, that could be a real good matchup in this one. But on paper, you'd have to say, looking at that squad list, Catalan do have the slight edge, but I'd say only just. I think they've got quite a few holes in there as well.
Yeah, and you mean it's again good comment where Matatafa is concerned, of course, back last week, and again he's going to have to find his way back into form after that. I think it was an elbow injury, wasn't it, that he had. Not as it was crystal clear it was his first game back. I mean, his stats earlier in the season were off the chart. Got a clean, no clean breaks, no tackle, no real tackle busting going on, but still 22 carries for 208 meters. So he was doing his work, he was doing it well, but from an attacking perspective, not the tower that we saw earlier in the campaign, and that'll come, I think, as it goes on. Whereas Staines, I think, has been pretty steady away, hasn't he, for Catalan throughout? And I think it's right that you pull that one out the frying pan. Well, let's take a look at the head-to-head. So let's bring this one up on the screen and have a little chat around this, because it's 12th against 8th. The York Knights have won 1 in the last 5, 2 in the last 5, but they're on a 3-game losing streak, the Catalan Dragons. And again, if we go to the average for and against, again, it's frightening that it's almost delivering us a verdict. The average for the York Knights this season is 19. Okay. The average against, though, for the Catalan Dragons is 29. I mean, in fact, they're identical. They've both scored an average of 19. They've averaged against 27 and 29. So on that, you might favour home field advantage if York's squad looked a little bit better, because that could be the tipping point. But again, we've just looked at those two squads. Does that get diluted based on who York have got missing? If York had the likes of Varney in there, had the likes of Ben Jones Bishop still in the back line, and they were looking a little bit more solid. They had, let's say that the halfbacks aren't too bad, but certainly a Paul Vaughan, a Jesse D, and they were in there as well. At that point, maybe you're thinking, actually, you know what, York, based on those stats, the in and out of Catalan, we're probably going to go the way of York. But for me, I'm probably edging the other way, because I think Catalan have got a little bit more quality. I think I'll probably repeat myself on a couple of other games here as well. I think when we look at some of these matches this week, the fact that some of these teams lost the prior week and badly, you expect a reaction from Catalan as well. Does that factor into this? The fact that Catalan really got a bloody nose against Wakey last week, and with John Cartwright, that won't be served up this week.
It does, but the problem I've got with Catalan is to leak that many points. And I know it's against a very good attacking Wakefield side. I get that totally. But they've got a lot to fix up defensively. And I don't think John Cartwright's had enough time to do that with them. Whether they've been able to sort it themselves, but it seemed like a pretty big issue to fix in a very short turnaround. And when you factor in travel back to France and then travel back here again in less than a week, then it's going to be a big task. And I think that travel fatigue could be a factor here. With York, I get the players that have got out, and that will definitely impact them going forward. But defensively, the players coming in could just be as good. So Catalan have still got to score the points against this York side. And I'll not give the game away in terms of prediction yet, but I can see York being really up for this one. And I think Catalan will be too. And I think it's got the Reggie, the potential to be the game of the round list for me. As daft as it sounds, it's it could be a real tussle this at the LNER.
I think you've nailed it. I think when we saw and we said this on Weekly, when you saw the fact that and we'll get to that, we won't get to that, but we're deprived of what should have been an absolute mouthwater this evening, and we have been. And the moment that the Wigan team was announced, my automatic thought process went to this game, because I just think, look, for the purposes of the podcast, I won't go through them all. We do post the head-to-heads, or we will be posting all of the tail of the tapes before the games. So follow us on all social media channels, and these will be published just before the game, so you can actually see the visuals for yourself. But you'll have to take my word for it, for the ones who are listening on Spotify and Apple. There is absolutely very, very little on every one of these KPIs between the two teams. When you actually go, you let your eyes wander across the screen. There's nothing in it. They're almost identical in terms of their key KPIs for this season, and that tells you one. There was a lot of talk. Would York be competitive? Well, look, this is Catalan Dragons. This is a team that's been to the grand final twice. This is a Challenge Cup winning side. Not this particular one, but they've been around long enough, and they've got a personnel, a roster that should be knocking on the door for top 6. So I think it's a reflection on how that York have competed. I keep saying it. All of these teams that have been promoted, Steph, it was all about making a good fist of it and not finishing bottom. And York at the moment are passing that test. In terms of Catalan Dragons, they'll be disappointed, and rightly so, that the faithful of Catalan, that you can put a slide up like this And a team like York, who haven't got the personnel that Catalan have got, are almost identical in their output this season.
Yeah, and I think the big thing in there is that Catalan have had the privilege of having a full recruitment cycle, where York didn't get that privilege. They got what was left, and fighting with what was left with two other clubs as well. So to just be having the same statistics as Catalan Dragons is a massive achievement for York. And earlier on in the season, people said, "Oh, it was a flash in the pan that they wouldn't be competitive, and it would be when the injuries start." Well, the injuries have started, and they're still, producing stats. They're very comparable to a team in eighth place. So I think that it kills that one, and I'm so looking forward to York, Bradford, and Toulouse having the opportunity to sign players now for next season and really be even more competitive next year.
Well, I mean, and you say that, and what's really interesting is, of course, the Bradford piece, because Bradford are in Super League next year. I mean, of course, we know that anyway for the IMG, etc. But they're going to Vegas, So Bradford already know. Bradford already know. I mean, even if there was any doubt, and there's not really, but even if there was any doubt in Bradford, the moment that got rubber stamped, they can now start their recruitment cycle, which again puts the likes of York and Toulouse at a disadvantage. They need to be told, and they need to be told now, because otherwise Bradford have got an unfair advantage because they know they're in. They're in.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, and again, York should be in. Toulouse should be in. I think, and again, forgive me, the other teams I think are coming under more questions than those three teams are currently. And we would expect London to go in, but I think the decision over 15 teams needs to be, or 14 needs to be sooner rather than later. And now, because of that decision for Bradford to play Lee in Vegas, we want a level playing field, mate, don't we? These teams need to know now. Are they in Super League next year?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they do. I think the only difference with Bradford, I think it's a mathematical impossibility for any of the other Toulouse or York to catch Bradford on the IMG ratings, especially when you factor in the crowds that they've been getting now as well. They'll go over the 7,500 average, so they'll get even more IMG points for next year. So I think that's why Bradford will be able to given Vegas in such certainty. But I agree completely. I think we've got it right for me now, and whether that's adding to it with London or not, those teams need to be kept in Super League now and given the opportunity to grow, because we've all seen what happened with. With Lee and with Wakefield, they got a season under the belt where they weren't going down, and then they built from that and got on. So I just hope them clubs are afforded that opportunity as well.
Well, yeah, you'd hope so. I mean, and look, mate. I mean, you're talking about attendances. Let's just talk about York for a moment. OKR opening game of the season 8,500. Warrington was 6,210. When Wakey went there, it was just shy of 6,000. Lee was 5,214. We've got to factor in again. That was a Friday. We've got to factor that in. But even Toulouse, when Toulouse went down there, it was 4,000 fans there. Castleford 6,000. I mean, again, no disrespect to the likes of Salford who were in the league. No disrespect to Huddersfield who are currently in the league. They're good attendances. So there is a feel good factor about York. I've been there for the Warrington game this season. I know you were gutted that you couldn't make the league one. It's destination rugby league. Those people who went to York this year, they'll be going back again next year because it's a great destination for a weekend away with the other half and the family. For me, it's absolutely right. I mean, anybody with an ounce of marketing and it's there for me. York for me is everything about York for me screams that it should be given the green light that it's there next year. Because for me, I would be devastated if York was taken away because I just think it adds so much.
Well, I think they've all done it. They're all averaging pretty decent for the first year in there as well.
Well, Bradford's amazing.
Yeah, and like I say, I think I can only use Lee as the reference because I know it. But when Lee first went into Super League, I think they averaged 6,500, 7,000. Now they're up to 9,000 average. So York will really build on that, and the word will get out, and you'll start getting the fear of missing out and all that kind of thing going. And then you throw into that a competitive side that's maybe in the top 8. With the regularly picking off a Leeds or a Wigan in the league. then them crowds are going to go higher and higher. So we've wanted York in for a long time, and now we've got them. We need to keep them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mate, there's so many references in there. Kylie Minogue came out at one point. Jackie Wilson came out at one point. I mean, you're like a walking jukebox, mate. Anyway, but let's just leave that there for a moment. Let's get into predictions then, mate. Where do you see it and by how many?
I might surprise you here. I'm going to go York by 1. I think it's going to be Golden Point, and I think Ngannou is going to stick a 1-pointer over. I mean, what? In fact, no, we tried that. Danny Richardson's good for a 1-pointer, isn't he? So I'm going to go Danny Richardson 1-pointer.
I'm going to go Catalan by 12. I'm going the other way, and the only reason I'm going that way is because one, they were so bad last week. They can't be that bad again. I think John Cartwright going in. There's a rocket there. You know, how loud is his voice when he's only there for the rest of the season? I don't know, but he's a quality operator, and we know that. And I think there's no disrespect to FC, but he's gone into a Catalan Dragons squad at the moment that is in far better health than the FC one that he's had all season. So he's got better tools at this moment in time to be working with. So I just think that and there's no doubt, we saw the squad a moment ago, there is a quality imbalance. If those players turn up, then it's a real difficult day at the office for York. So I'm going to go Catalan by 12. But as you quite rightly say, if Catalan are off, York have proved all season they will grind, and they will continue to grind. So it's going to be very, very interesting indeed to see what happens there. Fantastic stuff. Lovely. Great discussion this evening on the captain. Show me a better preview show than the Captain's Run. Just show me one. Unbelievable. Anyway, let's get into this. Let's give people a little bit of a reminder. The Prediction League, of course. If you're not a part of the Prediction League, then why not? You can play for free. But our members, who are Six Again and Team Talk members, are playing for a £250 contribution to their season ticket next year, a replica jersey in second, and a Super League Raw hoodie if they come third. Let's check in on the leaderboard here. It is, and Daniel Mulgrew still at the top with 72 points, a KR fan. Then Ed Firth up to second this week. He's a St. Helens fan. Adam Beasley, player of the week last week with 11 points. He now finds himself in third on 69 to Bradford Bulls fan. Norman Edwards, new name that one. Oh, Norman, he's gone up the league table. He's at 68.58 points. And then Mike Withers, a Wire fan, he's at 68.50. There's a few names in there that are not members. Unbelievably, you are forfeiting great prizes here at Super League Raw. Don't understand why you do that, but you are. Why? Unbelievable. And just to let you know, if you're leaving it to the 11th hour to become a member, you're not going to get these prizes. We're not going to allow that, I'm afraid. Yeah, unbelievable. You need now to buy an annual membership if you're not a member, and you've only got until the end of June to do that. End of June comes, I'm afraid to say, you are not playing for these prizes. So if you are in that league table and you're not an annual member, you need to set one up right now, or you're going to miss out on those prizes. Still time to join. So there you jolly well go. And I think, Mr. Sale, that is pretty fair, isn't it? That, you know, people need to join now, because you can't join at the 11th hour and expect to get a £250 contribution towards your season ticket, can you?
Well, no, I think they should join anyway, just for the greatest community in the game. So yeah, but no, if you are doing well in it, even more of a reason to join.
Indeed. Right, now let's go to the middle fixture on Saturday. What a belter, a full 80-minute contest, Toulouse and Wakefield. And I've said a full 80-minute contest there because even though Toulouse, Steph, have been really bad at letting early lead, just letting teams get off to an early lead, they've come back time and time again. They did it to Saints, they did it to Warrington. So we know that Toulouse are an 80-minute side. We know that Wakey are really as well. Both of these two sides have played for the full 80 this season. And for that reason, it should be a very entertaining fixture indeed. Let's take a look at the two squads. And I think, the first name that people look for on the Toulouse squad every week is Ollie Ashelbot. Is Ollie Ashelbot playing? Because, if he's playing, they've got genuine strike threat, and they have got a genuine strike threat. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that this Toulouse side beat Wakefield Trinity on the opening game of this season, 18-16. So Wakey, again, Big win last week, but they come into this wanting revenge for what was arguably a very, very disappointing loss to Toulouse. Not taking nothing away from Toulouse, but Wakey would have been hurt by that. So there's added motivation this week for the Wakey side. That said, when you look at the Toulouse side, there are players that were playing in that opening game of the season that are not in that squad. It does look a little bit weaker than it did in round one. As for Wakefield Trinity, yes, there's no Max Jowett. Yes, there's no Tom Johnstone. But after that, it is littered with absolute quality. I mean, you look at that, again, it does look imbalanced, but you just can't write Toulouse off, can you, this season, Steph?
No, you can't, especially not at home as well. And like you say, when they've got Ashol Bott in the team, he's a threat from anywhere, isn't he? And a lot of their impromptu off the cuff stuff comes through him. So Wakefield will definitely be looking to keep him quiet. I feared a little bit for Wakey last week with their back line. What they put out, I thought it looked a bit weak than what they would normally have out.
Yeah.
But boy, did they prove us wrong on that respect. So I know there's no Jowett still in this team. Obviously, no Tom Johnstone either. But they've still got a strike threat throughout, haven't they, Wakefield? And even the forwards are getting in on the scoring action now for them as well. So it's quite ominous for Toulouse.
Yeah, I mean, look, all the personnel that you'd expect to be there, with the exception of Jowett and Johnstone, are there for Wakefield Trinity. But the big loss for me as well here for Toulouse Olympic is Machuja Som. I mean, he has been absolutely phenomenal. 11 appearances this year, 6 tries, 2 assists. He has been absolutely sensational on both sides of the ball as well. Done 353 tackles this season. He's made just shy of 800 metres. I mean, when I saw that team sheet come out and there was no just Som as well, we know Dupree's gone. In that opening game of the season, Balmus was playing. He's not there. Rene, who had a great game. He was outstanding in that opening game of the season against Wakefield. He's not there. Like I say, some real key players are missing for Toulouse in this. And, Wakey, white hot. I mean, you can talk about Catalan all you want. Super League, Rugby League is a tough sport. And you'd agree with me, Steph, when a team is 10-0 down and then go 58-0 from that point on in the same game, and unless 48-0 second half performance, that has got to be respected. That is white hot, regardless of who you're playing in Super League.
Yeah. To have that form of attack, I mean, it's not teams can, you can have an off day and teams can put 20 on you, but when they score in 48 unanswered, then it's in a second half, should I say, that's just crazy, isn't it? Wakefield at home especially are, an unbelievable attacking side. You've got to factor in the travel for this one. I don't know how Wakey are going out, but there are some massive holes in that Toulouse side, which is concerning me massively. I didn't realise how many they had out. I think Laguerre's been really good for Toulouse, by the way. I think he's been solid. All of them, it deserves a mention in dispatches, but you've got to look at those two squads and say, it's Wakefield's all day.
Yeah. I mean, he's there, isn't he? He's number 5. I just wanted to check on that. I mean, you mentioned about last week's performance, and I've gone there. I had to go there for the purpose of this game. All of these players, Caleb Hamlin-Yuli, Caius Fiatilli, Trey Lalacio, all of these were on the bench. All of them were on the bench. And for the purpose of the podcast, this is the impact off the bench. And, there's no doubt about it. This middle unit changed the tide completely. This is where this game turned on a sixpence. The moment that the bench was utilised by Wakey, Catalan could not live with them. Hamlin-Yule, a try, an offload, 4 tackle busts, a break, 13 tackles only, 92% efficiency, 12 carries, 93 metres. Caius Fiatilli, 3 tries, 4 offloads, 10 tackle busts, 1 break, 15 tackles at a 93% efficiency, carried it 13 times, 99 metres. And then Trey, who, all right, didn't get a try, but got a try assist, had 7 tackle busts himself, only had to make 3 tackles, made them all, though. So, not that he had to, didn't miss one. That's again, some would argue he wasn't there to make him. But anyway, he didn't miss one. 10 carries. I mean, this is what I mean. 10 carries. at 140 metres, that's 40 metres of carry. Unbelievable. I mean, Steph, that if that was a Lee Leopards bench coming on the field and doing that for you, you would be purring, mate, wouldn't you? That is, talk about impact bench. That is incredible.
Yeah, and you could argue that these should all be starters in the Wakefield team, and probably a tactic by Darryl why they're not, and they really. But you can see why Catalan were 10 points up at one point in the first half, and then all of a sudden it changes, and then these guys definitely had a big impact on that. Trey Lolitio, he reminds me so much of Tom Amone when he first came over. He's very, very similar player to him. And Hamlin Ueli, he's been exceptional for Wakefield, and you don't need to say anything about fertility.
Just on Hamlin, England.
Yeah.
From your perspective, we were talking in the Ashes, me, you, the lads, the members, that, for many, many years, we had the forwards, perhaps the backs didn't turn up. At the moment, we look like we've got real good competition in the backs, and there seems to be a lack of the Sam Burgesses, the James Grahams of this world, and we could go back and back and back and mention even more names. Camlin Ueli is a real unit. I mean, for me personally, if he's putting his hand up for England, and we've talked about this, but if Victor Vadley's playing for England, then why can't Hamlin Ueli? For me, I think on current form, he has to play.
Yeah, he's going to be in the squad as a minimum. Because this was Wayne's problem for me. He didn't go on form. He went off name and who they were and whatnot, and that could well be his undoing in this situation with McDermott. I hope not, but for me, he's shown more than enough. He's well up there in the top 6 players in his position for me this year.
Yeah, and the interesting thing as well, where Trey's concerned, is when you surround him with quality, the difference. I mean, obviously he had a couple of games over there at Bradford to get his fitness levels up, and he really struggled to make impact in some of those games. But since he's come back to the games he's played for Trinity this season, he's found it very, very easy to get over the 100-meter mark. He's done that time and time again. And again, it's about having quality around you. But I agree with you. I mean, and again, the loan system really helped with Trey in terms of getting him out to Bradford, getting him some minutes under his belt. It's a frightening. I mean, you would argue now. This is right in terms of middle units in Super League, fully fit. Wakefield Trinity is right up there in the conversation in terms of who's got the best pack in Super League.
Yes, definitely. I think, yeah. I'm trying to think who's better. Who's got a better pack. KR got a really good pack. Wigan have obviously got a really good pack. Saints on the day when everyone's fit, you'd probably be thinking, but we're in them kind of, you could go Warrington and Leeds as well, but they're in that conversation, and that's exactly where Wakefield will want to be, and we all know the foundations are built off a good pack. If you've got a good pack, it makes your back's job so much easier, and also your hooker tend to stands out as well because they're going up.
Smoothie,
yeah. And Smith as well. I think Smith's been phenomenal for a young lad. I think he's a really, really good player. But that punch and quick split play the ball goes in with what the new interpretation of the rules are now. And there's no doubt Wakefield have taken advantage of that.
I think the thing as well, with the Wakey pack is the mobility of it. I mean, even the big units like Hamlin Ueli and Fire Tilly, they've got good engines. They've got a good offload. They've got something about them. Whether you think like Lazone, and you think of those type of players that impact, and you're going to get 20 minutes out of them. Yeah. Whereas Fire Tilly, Mago's another one where you think, whereas Fire Tilly, he'll do you 60 minutes, and he'll be as good at, he'll be still punching through holes at minute 59 as he was in minute 1, and I think, like I say, they're right up there, and they absolutely changed the whole complexion of that game. This is the two side by side. Of course, it's 13th Toulouse going up against 5th Wakey Trinity. Trinity 3 games from the last 5, just 1 win for Toulouse in the last 5. Average for Toulouse this year, 15. Average against for Wakey, 16. Average 4 for Wakey this season, 26. Average against for Toulouse, 25. Again, there's your result almost. It's mad when sometimes you put stats together and you're like, there's your result. It couldn't be more obvious. But I just think based on the squads, and again, by all means, pick out of this graphic whatever you want, Steph. But I think based on the squads, I'm not going to say what my prediction is just yet. But I think based on the squads, I'd expect the margin to be a bit more this week for Wakey personally. Than certainly 10 would suggest. But from you looking at that slide, unlike the one before where there was not an awful lot in it, there's some key areas in this one where you're going, there is an imbalance. Tries being 155 to 31.
Yeah. I think the one that surprises me is the dummy runs, with Toulouse having more dummy runs though, with the hookers that Wakefield have got. But just shows that I think they're using Smoothie more than Smith's more the dummy runner, isn't he? Where Smoothie's more the distributor.
And on that, Steph, you've got to give Hans credit. You saw that. I was with you at the Toulouse game at Lee. Hans is doing a good job at 9 for Toulouse.
He's a good player. Yeah, I like him a lot. He's got great hands. So, but yeah, no, he's a really good, bit of a live wire, isn't he, for them? And very good player. But I'm actually shocked at those stats, at how close they are.
Yeah.
I thought there would be a big gulf, especially. I mean, I think the biggest stat on there that stands out is 5th and 13th.
Yeah,
in terms of league position, I thought Wakefield would have completely dominated the statistics there, but I suppose that shows the games that Toulouse have played, how competitive they've been in them for the majority. But I am surprised.
I think there's a bit of an imbalance in the fact that I think we both agree with this. I think there's been certain games, certainly in the earlier rounds, where I think Wakey for me under-delivered a little bit, and it's took them a while. And there's this. I mean, you keep bringing it up. They're not beating those teams in and around the 6, But their best performance last year was against Catalan at home. They were phenomenal. Catalan that time it was a first half performance, and Catalan couldn't live with them. This year it was a second half performance. But for me personally, like I say, I just think Wakey now might be just getting into their groove. Might just be, and if they can back up last week with a convincing win in Toulouse, because let's be fair, not many people have gone over to Toulouse this year and got a convincing win. They've been hard-fought, grindy wins. And again, it's an opportunity, this, for Wakefield. The 2-11 favourites for it, as you can see at the top, for Wakefield to really put a score on and say, right, we're now in the groove and we mean business.
Yeah, definitely. And Toulouse will have to be very, very wary of that. And they can't afford to have a slow start against Wakefield, because we know Wakefield will just rack the points up on them. They need to really... I don't know if they need to try something different in this game to try and disrupt Wakefield a little bit and throw them off the game a little bit. But I think one thing to lose, I mean, not that Dupree was an enforcer anyway, I don't think, but they are kind of missing that enforcer type of forward who can really, step up for them. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough ask for the Toulouse 13.
Well, they're very reliant on this man. Very reliant on this man. And I thought again, I make no apologies for talking about him, Ollie Ashall, just how good he's Ollie. And, we saw recently the Man of Steel conversation where Lockie Miller's concerned. And, so we're talking about Lockie Miller as a Man of Steel. Ollie Ashall Bot wasn't in the top 10, ladies and gentlemen. For the purposes of the podcast, both of these two players, I'm comparing and contrasting Ollie Ashall Bot, who plays for Toulouse, with Lachlan Miller, who plays for Leeds, who are sitting second in Super League. Lockie Miller, the man who was given massive flowers by Ellery Hanley and potential Man of Steel. 8 tries to 1 to Ollie Ashall. Assist 410 in Lockie's favour. Busts 76 for Ollie, 89 for Lockie. 7 breaks for Ollie, 5 for Lockie. 193 carries for 1,384 metres for Ashall Bot. 252 carries for 1,949 for Lockie Miller. Steph, that for me tells you how well he's played. If Lockie Miller is being touted as a potential Man of Steel, then how does Ollie Ashall Bot on those stats not make a top 10 in the conversation?
Yeah, no, and it's a good show. I mean, I think we've certainly not unnoticed Ashelbot. He's been phenomenal. I think the key difference for me with these two, and in terms of why Miller's probably in the conversation, it's the positions he's got Leeds into with his carries. Obviously, Leeds try scorers. They've got three in the top five, haven't they, or whatever it is, with Croft and Nicasino, etc. So there's other people been doing the try scoring off the back of Miller's good work, I think, at Leeds. But obviously, playing in that Leeds side as well, you are going to get more notice than what Bot is. But there's no doubt about it. He's a top quality player, is Bot. And I'm sure there's some sides in Super League that need a fullback. We'll be looking at him if you can get him out of his contract at Toulouse.
Well, I mean, look, it's almost a very simple. I mean, how you do it is another thing, but if you can nullify Ollie Ashelbot, you're probably going to have a field day, is what I would say against Toulouse. Right, let's get predictions in. I'm going Wakey by 20. What are you going?
I'm going Wakefield by 30.
You're going big.
Well, I was going to be similar to you, but I think looking at those squads and who Toulouse have got missing, I think it might be a tough day at the office.
Yeah, again, it's the travel and all. I get it. It's going to be. I think it might be somewhere in between. It's. But I do. I think if you're Wakefield, you've got to be fancying the 20-pluser. You've got to be on that one. But anyway, outstanding, right? Now then, of course, we now go to the Bambies. I love that phrase, Bambies. Let's be fair, both of these two have got incredible attributes. Casford Tigers going up against St. Helens, Harry Robertson and Mapalange facing off. What an incredible contest this is. But I got a bit excited earlier on. Now we are going to get to the Ryan Carr interview. And of course, Ryan Carr having to deal with the George Hurst card last week. And of course, the ban that George Hurst has got. That's where the conversation starts. We also talked about his halfback partnership as well. So this was myself with Ryan Carr. This is what he had to say.
Hey, Ryan, you well?
Yes, I'm good. Thanks, Dave. How you going, mate?
Very well, mate. Very well. Just onto that George Hurst one. Is it frustrating when there is a ban like that, where there's very little he could have done? It happened so quickly in terms of intent. Is that from a coaching perspective to lose a player under those circumstances? Is that a real frustration?
Yeah. What do you reckon? You watched it. What do you reckon?
Well, it's a split-second sport. It's a contact sport. I don't really know what George can do to not
other than move out of the way. Yeah.
It wasn't a swinging arm. It's a collision, isn't it?
Yeah, he would have to avoid that type of collision. Like you're right, he would have had to dead set disappear, which is impossible. So unless I can work on that, I'll try. But yeah, it's frustrating. It is. I got to respect the process and respect the decision and just get on with it. But yeah, it is for him. It's just a tricky one because you can't really fight it either because it was the ruling I think was based on the player failing the HIA more so than the actual action itself. So if you can't really argue the fact that he failed his HIA because he did, which I hope Senga's doing well. I've coached him before and he's a great kid and you never want to see anything like that happen to anyone. But yeah, it's part of the game, I suppose. I've just got to respect the decision and get on with it.
On a more positive note, your halfback combination new this year, of course, Weaver and Dejan. And Dejan got man of the match on Sky. Where do you see that partnership currently in its progression?
Yeah, it's getting better and better. We just got to continue to play with confidence and belief. And when those two guys do that, they play really well. And I've got a lot of belief and confidence in them to go out and perform well each week. And I just want to see them, go to the game really and get their hands on the ball and play and not let the game go by and sit back and watch it. I think when they're playing the game and they're in the game and they're active, we play really well. And for both of those guys, when they defend well, they usually play well. So just want them to keep going after their consistency and their performance now.
Yeah, and finally for me, your left edge. I'm very excited over your left edge. It's looking pretty potent. And whilst Mapalangi and Gary will get the headlines because they'll finish, how important is Alex Mellor in that? I think Mellor, yet again at the weekend, just showed why he's your captain and how important he is.
Yeah, he had a great game for us. His effort areas were really high. I think that probably his last game that his effort areas were that high was in that Wigan game at Wigan. So that's sort of an indication of when he's on, we're on. But yeah, like you said, mate, Maps and Gary get a lot of the headlines, which is okay. But we here, us within this building, know that all the work that the team does before that, a lot has to happen for them to be able to get their space and to get that momentum that allows them to do what they're good at and finish opportunities off. But really pleased with the platform our middles provided for them on the weekend, I suppose.
Superb. Well, I wish you well. Go well.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
So there you go, Ryan Carr earlier with myself, and I mean, I thought he's got to be careful what he says over the George Hurst. Well, we've seen a few of these, haven't we? Where what is he supposed to do? And I thought he's right. You know, other than disappear, what he's supposed to do? It's a split. It's a contact sport. Clearly happy with his halfback combination in terms of the development of that. But I just want to start with you. They've always had I don't know what it is with Castleford, but the left edge has always been pretty decent. And of course, Innes used to be out there, of course, who's now, and of course we commented for many, many years on how good Innes Senior was, and you know he's gone to Lee, and there was a lot of question. I mentioned it again. There was a lot of Lee fans who wasn't too plussed about that, and we were like, "Look, let's just wait and see." We knew he was going to be a good player at Lee, but credit to Castleford, because I think if they can continue to bolster the squad, I think the left edge now with Alex Mellor, who I think is a Rolls Royce of a second row, I really do. Mapapalangi's been incredible, and Gary's a finisher. It's been his fitness, it's been his injuries that have plagued his career. Nobody's ever doubted his quality as a winger. It looks good on that side, doesn't it?
It does, and you know, there's a lot of negatives at Great Castlewood's performances this year, but there's also some real positives as well. And I think the players you mentioned there, you know, not more so than Palangi, obviously. But is it I can never remember his name. The other winger.
Well, you say that he's in the squad at the top. Valamay. Now, look, ladies and gentlemen, I saw this guy firsthand at Warrington in that demolition job. And let me tell you now, even in defeat, this boy looked incredible. He really, and I'll tell you now, I'm itching to see him again. He's what Castleford for me. You've got Mapapalangi, who has to put bums on seats. Has to. Who wouldn't want to go and watch that lad in full flow? And I've only seen a glimpse of Valamay, but let me tell you now, there could be another one here. Because I thought he was exceptional in defeat. Exceptional. So you're right to mention him, mate, and it's good to see him back in that squad list.
Yeah, definitely. And let's hope he makes an appearance, because they're going to have to have players like that if they are going to compete with Saints at the top of the table. But I don't think Cassie's backline has ever really been the issue. It's the forwards for me, where if those backs get the service, then they can do a job and they're dangerous, and they've already proven that this season. It's the platform that they're being given at the minute for me, and whether they can compete with what is a very good St Helens pack as well.
Well, the Saints team, again, Castleford, just for the purposes of the podcast, Valamay's there, let's hope he plays. Sinny's there as well. It's pretty much where they were last week. Kane Robb, I thought, as well, added a lot. Kane Robb's a good addition to be in there. Ash Goulding. PLT had a much better game than he did the week before. Gets all of the ball, well done, son. Tyler Dupree as well. But you look at the Saints team, back comes Percival. Saints now, with the exception of Matty Lees and, of course, Jacob Host, they are now pretty much there. And for me, if this was at Saints, based on, it was a good win Castleford got over York. It was a gritty win. But it's York. We're talking a different, and I'm sure Mr. Applegarth wouldn't mind me saying this, Saints are a different level. If this was at the Brewdog, I'm going, oof, I fancy a big score. The fact that it's at the Wombo, smaller pitch, maybe not so much. But again, you look at these two squads side by side, as you quite rightly say, there's elements of this Castleford squad that look good, but they're probably to compete. And I'm not saying they can't beat Saints, anything can happen on a day, but as a prequel, which is what we're doing, for us to sit here and say they've got, they're going to give, before a ball has been kicked, we really fancy Castleford, they're probably 4 to 5 players light versus a Saints squad that looks like that. Would you agree?
Yeah. for Saints now, there's no real excuses, is there? Anymore. That team is a very strong St Helens side now. Like I say, I fear for the middles. I think this is where Saints have got the advantage, and they're really going to go down the middle to get field position, but also tire Cass out. And one thing we know that works with a very strong attacking backline that Castleford have got is to tire them out and run at them. And I suspect that may be a tactic that Paul Rowley uses. I also think we may see some rolly ball in this game, what I call rolly ball, where Saints really start chucking it about, offloading, because again that will the retreating Castleford side will get really tired very quickly if Saints start to do that, and I suspect that may be the game plan for Paul Rowley this week.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree. Well, look, let's go to the tail of the tape on these two teams, and of course it's 11th against first. 5 in a row Saints have won, 2 in the last 5 for Castleford. Castleford averaged 16 points a game, concede 31. Saints averaged 25-4, but 20 against, which is that's not great. If you're Saints, they are conceding points, but that again we've got to factor in when we say that. Saints have been doing it tough. They have had genuine injury issues this year. But when you look at things like Stefan, I'll just pick out some key KPIs for you to walk from 48 tries to 31, 426 tackle busts to 308, 97 offloads to 57, 55 clean breaks to 45. In those areas, 150 dummy runs to 57. It does feel like Saints on a dry track. This could be another one of those humble moments where Ryan Carr at the end of the game is facing the camera talking about 2027 because, like I say, they're 4 or 5 players too light.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen these stats before you put them up, Dave, but it just goes to highlight the tackle busts and the offloads, exactly what I was just describing.
Yeah.
That is where you're going to get over Castleford this week, tire them out, because they've got some good players in that pack of Castleford, but they're not the level that St Helens are. And if Saints do that, and you've got Worms, they'll be a big part of those busts. Him running at it, letting the platform, that then creates opportunities, and the offloads come off the back of that because it's tied defenders. And then all of a sudden you find yourself 20-0 down. So I think those stats back up exactly what I was saying.
You heard me talking there to Ryan Carr about the halfback combination at Castleford. For me, currently, there's been shades. I mean, for example, Weaver against Wigan, incredible. And then he's been off. I think Dejan Arce, for me, when you consider he's been there for the length of time now that he's been, you can't pick. I mean, getting a man of the match performance against York, I'm sorry, but that's not going to cut too much with me. I think over the period that he's been there, he's flattered to deceive. And for me, it's crystal clear. Cook will be an amazing asset down the middle in that spine next year. Absolutely. And they are bringing in these other players, Feynard that we spoke about on weekly as well. So they are making the acquisitions, and I think, that should make Castleford far more competitive in 2027. But where do you see that halfback combination? I mean, would you be comfortable currently on what you've seen with the additions that are coming in around going into 2027 on what you've currently seen, Weaver and Arce, or do you think that's somewhere else that you need to look at?
Oh, the jury's out on Weaver, I would say. I'd like to see him behind a dominant pack and what he can do, because we all know that can impact a side and how a halfback performs. I think a 13 for him would really help as well. Like a John Asiata's type of player. We've seen what that did with Caesar. But I think 6 is the one where they need to, with Arce. I think that needs to be. I think Arce would be a bit more like a Lino role for me.
Look at Lino going, isn't there?
Yeah. So it's difficult because you don't want to say a player's not good enough. But if Castleford maintain Arce and Weaver, I can't see them breaking into the top 6 next year, regardless of who they're bringing in. If you want to be a top 6 side, you need the top 6 halfbacks. It's as simple as that.
Well, speaking of halfbacks, we forgot to mention that Riley Dean has signed for Bradford from now until the end of the season. Riley Dean goes back up against Warrington this weekend. Speaking about that'll be interesting to see. He's been doing well for Oldham, been doing really well for Oldham, Riley. So that'll be interesting to see. We started here at the start of the show. Time to dance, gentlemen. Time to dance. I mean, again, this is fascinating because I think both of them have got the ability to make the other look very silly. And we're talking about Christian Mapapalangi and Harry Robertson. For the purposes of the podcast, this again highlights how well, from a finishing perspective, Mapapalangi's been playing. We've got to factor in that Robertson plays for Saints, Mapapalangi plays for Castleford. Mapapalangi, 10 appearances to Robertson's 11, 6 tries to Robertson's 2, 5 assists to Robertson's 2, busts 45 to 50 in Robertson's favour, 6-2 up Mapapalangi in terms of breaks, carries 20 less for Mapapalangi, 139 to 159, but in terms of meters made, pretty much identical, 11.52 for Mapapalangi and 11.63 for Robertson. This, Steph, could be just very entertaining because they've both got very similar games. Like I say, they could both make each other look very, very silly on a rugby league field. I think it's going to be a belting little tussle, this one.
Yeah, and Mapapalangi's got the advantage in the try scoring department this year. However, everything else is pretty similar, isn't it, with these two? So it's they're very elusive players, aren't they? That's the whole point of the Bambi thing, isn't it? Very difficult to put down when they do have the ball. And that they're on opposite sides. These two, aren't they?
No, because it depends who he plays. If Percival's in, he'll be on the left. Mapapalangi plays left, and Robertson then plays right. So I think there's a real chance here. And Dion Cross has been playing left in centre, and Robertson's been playing right. So I do believe these are going to go head to head.
If I was Paul Rowley, I'd be putting Percival on him, on Mapapalangi. I think defensively, Percival likes to shoot the line a bit, doesn't he? And I think that's the problem with Mapapalangi. If you get him any space, then that's where he causes trouble. So whether it's a bit of a tough ask for his first game back to go against him, I don't know. But yeah, that'd be interesting to see what Paul Rowley does in that respect, or whether he does decide to switch him round.
Well, history tells you it's the Saints win. They've won five in a row away at Castleford. They're in good form going into it. And again, not quite. I can't remember who you've got for your try scores, but Kyle Felt has scored tries in the side's last 4 meetings. But let's not forget, last week Felt didn't play.
No,
he went Dagnall and Murphy. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Right, let's get to it then. In terms of predictions, I'm going Saints by 22.
I think we're just on that, Dave, as well. He may put Cross into the because Percival's back. He may put Cross on the wing.
He could do, but I think the fact that last week he went to Murphy Dagnall, he likes Murphy.
Yeah,
he likes me. It's crystal to me that Paul likes Murphy.
Mm.
The question is, who's he putting on the right wing? And Croft tends to play left. So I think, sorry, Cross. I think again, he likes Cross. So I think the left edge is a Cross Murphy left edge. I think, and we know Robertson has to play. The question is he Dagnall or Felt? You might, that's just my take. Based on what we've seen up to now this season, he does seem to favour Murphy.
Yeah, he may put Percival on the bench. Percival could play second row. He could cover second row if needed be. So we'll see. But yeah, in terms of the result, like I've already alluded to, I think Castle will come out all guns blazing for this one, with it being a home game as well. And I think it'll be quite competitive for the first 40 minutes. But I do think fatigue will set in when Saints start steamrolling down the middle. And I think they could go over to make, a couple of late tries to make it look more comfortable than it actually was. So I'm going to go Saints by 18.
Slightly in from me. But yeah, I mean, I think the league leaders, they've got the troops back now. And what we do know is they've got attacking threat right across the piece. And I think that over 80 minutes could be the key, I'd have to say. Quick dip into the Fantasy League. Of course, Fantasy League still up and running. If you've not joined ours, if you're playing the Fantasy League but you've not joined ours, then get involved. Super League Raw 26. 12378 is the pin. SLR hashtag 2026 is the password. Members playing for a Club Wembley ticket next year, a 2027 replica shirt, and a bobble beanie or baseball hat in 2027. This is the leaderboard. Here it comes. Stuart Scaife, Brothers in Arms, currently leading. That middle one is wrong. Apologies. That point, I don't know where that's come from. It's somewhere in between. I think it's actually only about, I think that should be 7-4-2-5. So apologies there. 7-4-2-5 is Dean Allen, slightly behind Stuart. Alan Bagley is in there as well, as to Catherine Deering. She's been there all year. And Daniel Moxon, well done to all you guys who are currently leading in the Fantasy League. Right, let's jump into Friday's fixtures. The Rhinos ring dinner bells, not cowbells, is what we've gone with for this game. Of course, Yorkshire Derby, Yorkshire Fair, new coach. Again, we talked about John Cartwright, Steph, in terms of what impact can he have in such a short space of time. So, same for Jim at the Huddersfield Giants, it has to be said. These two, of course, played earlier in this year. 56-22, the Rhinos put on the Giants at the AQ Stadium. Let's go into the squads. Here they are. No Lockie Miller, of course, banned. So I think I'm hearing that McCormack is perhaps going to be the debutant there. Fergie McCormack, good player. I've seen him many a time, and I'm really pleased as well there. Guys, we get into the detail here at Super League Raw. Zach Lloyd is listed in the squad. Unlikely to play, but great to see him in the 21-man squad. That is a name, believe you me, that you will be hearing a lot of in the next 2 or 3 years. That is a player that, let me tell you now, is a quality-looking player. Goal kicks as well, plays second, good player. So good to see him in the Leeds Rhinos 21-man squad. After that, it's pretty much where it's at. It's a very, very strong team. Still no Tom Holroyd, but with the exception of Holroyd, they're looking in fine fettle are the Leeds Rhinos going into this game. As for Huddersfield Giants, again, big misses. No Adam Swift again. Connor Wrench, injuries again. Connor's in and out. That was his plague at Warrington. Just doesn't seem to be able to get a run of games. Connor Wrench. Up in the front unit, still no Burgess. They're missing Asher O'Donnell for this game, which again I think is a hammer blow for Huddersfield Giants. Asher has been playing superb rugby league for Huddersfield Giants. Even in the defeats, he has been a real standout player for them this season. So, Steph, again, looking at those two squads, it does almost... when he comes back, I don't know where he's legged it to. He's legged it somewhere. But yeah, looking at those two squads, advantage Leeds. Leeds just look a little bit more settled. And again, unluckily for Huddersfield Giants, Leeds coming into this off the back of a very, very poor display. I was listening to other podcasts this week who said that, all the stats said that, Leeds were the better team by the score. My eyes didn't see that. I don't care what the stats said. Sometimes the stats, forget the stats. Leeds were well beaten against Wigan last week.
Yeah, they were. And I fully expect a response to that this week, which probably, I think Huddersfield will probably open for a Leeds win at Wigan, because there's no doubt Brad Arthur will have them fully fired up for this back at ANC Headingley. Massive misses for Huddersfield again with Swift out. He gives them a lot. But I think the biggest one is Asher O'Donnell. That's a huge blow, especially against the Leeds pack. He would have done a lot of the tough stuff for Huddersfield in this one. And alarm bells are ringing, unfortunately, and it's not the good cowbell ones.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, mate. I'm with you on that. I think it's going to be a very, very tough day at the office. How do you think Brodie Croft is going to be received at Headingley on Friday night?
Well, if he scores another hat-trick, I'm sure he'll be fine, or even 4.
You get the feeling that Leeds Rhino fans feel a little bit discouraged by what's gone on here. That's the feeling through the members that we're getting. We are getting the feeling there's a bit of needle there.
Yeah, there's definitely animosity there. I think when you play for a club like Leeds, you expect to retain your best players if you want to keep them. So there's a bit of not entitlement. I think that's a bit strong. I think Leeds have earned it.
I think the word stature. It's a big club.
Yeah, exactly. That's more what I'm going with. You know, that they will feel that if they want to keep a player, they should, unless the only one where you've got like Newman concerned and players like that is if they're going to the NRL. You can't really begrudge a player for better money, better lifestyle, all that kind of thing. But it will hurt Leeds that he's decided to go to a rival club and one that's sitting so closely to them on the table currently as well. It's not quite going from Hull KR to Hull FC or Wigan to Saints, but it will still hurt the Rhinos fans that he's decided to. It feels like he's turned his back on them a little bit, and when it's your star player or one of your star players, that can really hurt, and it's understandable. Yeah. But what you've got to try and remember as a fan, and I know it's difficult, is what you've had and what service he's given you,
and what he could still give you this year.
And what he could still, yeah, exactly. He could deliver them a grand final win this year. And
they probably let him go with their best wishes at that point.
Yeah, I still think one thing's for certain is when he returns to Headingley as a Warrington Wolves player, as we fully expect him to be, that will probably be even more uncomfortable.
Well, the last time Huddersfield got a win over Leeds was all the way back in Super League 24, round 19, a 30 points to 24 win at Leeds. So that takes care of that. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape between these two. And, of course, second against 14th. And there's going to be no surprise here that there is an absolute pretty much gulf, really, in terms of key KPIs. They're very much in the favour of the Leeds Rhinos. A little bit closer when you get into errors and penalties, but like I say, in the main, it really is a Leeds Rhinos dominant. Yellow cards though, 4-2 in that's somewhere that Huddersfield do have a bit of an advantage. But like I say, key attacking KPIs, tackle efficiency, a 2% increase on Huddersfield, 92 plays 90. And like I say, when it comes to tries, 60 plays 33. The busts 445, 322. Offloads 125, 94, clean break 68, 44. All of these key KPIs going the way of Leeds. Of course, they've only lost one in the last 5, and that was, of course, to Wigan. The 1-16 on for this game. Average 4 this year for the Rhinos, 32. Only 16 for Huddersfield. Average again, 16 for the Rhinos, 28 for Huddersfield. It's hard to see a win here for Huddersfield, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think Huddersfield have got it in their gift as to who's going to win this game. I think, unfortunately, I think even the most diehard Huddersfield fans would say that's probably out of their reach. Miracles can happen, we've seen it. But I think what Huddersfield have got in the gift is how many leads win by. And how ugly or not ugly it can be, and that's about attitude. And regardless of attacking ability, one thing that Huddersfield can do is defend like their lives depend on it. And if they do that, then they've got every chance of keeping this respectable. And then should the unthinkable happen and Leeds get a red card or something along those lines, or a key injury maybe to one of their players, then they're in the position to act on that. But just head to head with no issues, whatever, this should be a comfortable Leeds win. And I think, like I said, the Cable Army would admit to that. But attitude is the big one for me for Huddersfield in this one, and I think the Giants fans would take a loss if the attitude's there and they put in a good performance.
One thing's for certain, Toulouse, whatever you do, don't take a short kickoff. You can't do that. You just can't do that against Leeds. They're going to absolutely muller you. This is about back your defence, get it as far downfield as possible and play out the 6 and just stay in the grind. Last week, wow, unbelievable. Anyway, let's get into a key head-to-head, and that's, of course, hooker. This is an interesting one, of course. Levi, who for whatever reason, I think I might have mentioned this in Weekly, preferred to O'Connor, which I'm finding really bizarre, I have to say, as a start. Really bizarre. But 11 appearances to 10, Levi over Woolford. Both have scored a try each. 3 assists to 1 for Levi. 51 dummy runs to 26. We know that Levi's a more of a runner than Wolford. Tackles, though, Wolford, what a shift, 340, plays 277. 60 carries to 33, expected in Levi's favour, 550 metres to 286. Running isn't really Wolford's game, but like I say, if we're going to try and pick out a battle, that's the one it is. I want to just cut to the chase on this one. Winner, and by how many?
I'm going to go Leeds by 32.
I've gone 24. I've gone 24, but I can see why you. It's one of, like I say, it's an imbalance this week. Tops are playing bottoms, and that's why some of these scores are so big. But there could be a surprise somewhere. You know,
there will be. One will definitely surprise us. And like I just said, it's about attitude, and that's where Huddersfield could maybe make me look silly there.
Absolutely. Right, let's wrap this one up tonight. We're not going to talk Wigan against KR. We'll let Sky try and plug 30 minutes, and I'm sure John Wilkins is going to have something to say tonight over what's gone on in terms of squads and etc. That could be an interesting debate. But yeah, this is a proper contest. Lee taking on offset, or I say a proper contest. Lee Leopards fans, you must be licking your lips. You look at the squad of Hull FC for this one. Yes, SASA is there. Do not expect Term and SASA to play. I just can't see. In fact, let's just mop that up straight away. We were speaking before we went on air. He's coming back from injury. They're having a week off next week, Steph. There's no way for me. No way SASA is playing on Friday night.
We're looking at the squad there. It's going to be a tough game at the Lee Sports Village. Do you really want to throw him into that cauldron? He would be expected to do a lot as well in this game, especially again going against the man pictured on screen there in Joe Fangawe. So you never know. It all depends on the player, I suppose, and whether he feels though it's the right game for him to go into. I would be surprised if he features the LS3.
Yeah, me too. No Keenan Brand, of course, he's out for the season. Steph mentioned that to me before we went on air. No Tessie New either. Apart from that, and of course...
Just on that, Tessie New, breaking news, he's out for 5 weeks.
So Tessie New's out for 5. So we're not going to see Tessie for a few weeks then. Maybe Magic then, possibly. As a return date, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, no Tessie New. So any senior still deputised, probably in centre, I would expect, perhaps Bailey Hodgson.
I think he may go, because they put obviously AJ Towes on the wing and moved in a senior in for the KR game.
And he played all right, did AJ?
He did. But I think they may go Bailey Hodgson either on the wing or centre within his senior. I'd be tempted to put Bailey in the centre and put in his senior on the wing. But we'll see.
We'll see. And as you say, in terms of Joffa, incredible performance at the weekend. He's been your linchpin. Pape's there, as you'd expect. Still no Robbie Mulhern. So Ryan Brown and possibly still in there in contention as well to play in this one. Lewis Brogan, Jack Hughes, they'll be on the bench, I'm sure. Going back to FC squad, no Lewis Martin, who's going to be out for, I think, 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. Just on Martin, very briefly. Last year, we were all saying very unlucky not to be in the Ashes. I don't think he's in the World Cup conversation. He's not been as effective this year. Now the injury is going to be out for another 4 to 5 weeks. I think, unfortunately for Lewis, I don't see him going down under, do you?
No, and I think he's not had the service either this year. But it can't just be that. And I think a lot of it's been affected by Barron not playing as well. It sounds daft being on the opposite side of the field, but it's different threats, isn't it, and different options. And it happens. Players have an off season, but there's no doubt that Martin's a quality player.
So it's 7th against 9th, 3 wins in the last 5 for Lee, just 1 win in the last 5 for Hull FC. Very, very close. Again, statistically speaking, like we were saying earlier, and this slide will go out tomorrow, very little, very, very little across all key KPIs between these two teams. But we go back to the previous graphic, which is, and it really is that close to those who are listening. There's really nothing in it in terms of what these two do. In fact, average beats is unbelievable. Lee averaging 11.85 a game to 16.71 for FC, which is really interesting. But when you look at the actual squads, I'm sorry, Lee at home, FC decimated. I think for me, I'm just going to leave that one there. This is the danger for FC. Milo Hanley, I think, could have a field day. He's been out a lot injured. Had a good, he's back. Last week, bit of minutes under his bed. I think Milo Hanley's good for a score. Tomorrow night, I really do. Pape, incredible. Absolutely incredible against KR. Incredible statistics, in terms of his 6 appearances this season. 10 busts, a try, an assist. And then Joffa. 8 appearances, he's got a try, he's got an assist, 188 tackles at 9% efficiency, 18 busts, made 779 metres from 113 carries. That's a real problem and a big headache as well. When these three are, I think having Hanley is a great shout for a try. I think Hanley will have a great game on Friday. I think they've got their hands full, and that's before we start talking Lockie Lamb and the rest, and Bailey Hodgson potentially, and perhaps David Armstrong, who had probably one of his best games against FC since coming at League. They've got their hands full here, FC, haven't they, on Friday?
Yeah, they have, and I think the most important thing is that they fit, because all the 3 players on the screen here have all been injured this year and out for pretty big chunks as well. So it's if you look at the appearances, there are only 2 for Hanley, 6 for Ipape, and 8 for Joffa. So, and it's getting them all on the field at the same time, and just from a Leeds fan's perspective, it's really unfortunate to lose Tessie New now as well, because we're yet to see a full strength Leeds side, a genuine full strength Leeds side. But there's no excuses for Lee now. Most of this team is back, and it nearly is full strength. So they should have, hopefully, for the Leeds fans' perspective, too much for FC, given the players that they've got out.
The only hope FC have got for me is these 3 would have to have a 10 out of 10 performance. Logan Moore, who's been playing at fullback, and I think he's been playing okay, Logan, to be fair. 6 appearances, 2 tries, 2 assists, 1 break, 23 busts, 2 offloads, 91 carries, 656. Davy Litton, that's where the tries are. He's not been passing to Lewis. He's been going himself. 6 tries this season from 11 appearances. And then, of course, Harvey Barron, who's been out for big spells, and we know that Harvey's got talent on the edges. This for me, is the only real issue that Lee have got is these 3, and I think I just don't expect them to be able to play off what I'm going to say it now. I expect to be a very big beaten pack on Friday night. I think that's going to be just nullify their opportunity to do anything in the game.
Well, that's what it looks like as a squad. Again, it comes back to attitude. Bit of a bogey side for Lee recently. LFC did beat them last year, the Leopards. So, but there's no doubt they're severely handicapped with that squad selection that they've put out. And even having Barron back is great for them, but it's his first game back after a bit of an absence, so he's going to take him a bit of time. And again, not an ideal for him to go into as a comeback game, travelling, the 3 hours over the M62 on a Friday. And then going into the cauldron that is the LSV. So it's going to be an interesting one, Dave.
It is, mate. Right, go on, prediction. What have you got?
I'm going to go Lee by 16.
Lee by 28. Right, we're not going to go anywhere near tonight's game. If you want to hear what we had to say about this, go and watch this week's week. We did a full half an hour on this game. We have been deprived of what would be one of the marquee games, and I completely disagree with the comments that it shouldn't have been the week before. The arrogance of that is unbelievable. Any team could get to a Challenge Cup final, so you can't say that. For me, disappointing. We'll leave that for Sky. But before he goes, because he's a busy man and he's got to get off, it's time for this.
The bets to ignore when predicting the score. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Bet Steph.
Okay, so I have deliberately left out Wigan and KR this week for reasons you've just mentioned. So it's only a 6-team ACCA. Hull FC 18.5. If Lee aren't on it for whatever reason, it's still a big handicap for Lee to overcome that. So I fancy FC on that one, but it could be either way on that. Leeds minus 22.5. I think they're going to have more than enough to overcome that at home against Huddersfield at the moment. Saints, top of the league against one of the bottom sides. I think minus 10 is quite generous on that front. Wakefield Trinity minus 14. I do think that they've got, based on the win against Catalan, enough to overcome that handicap. York Knights, as we said, I expect that to be really close. But I know you said they're quite a lot for York, so we'll have to see on that. But York 6.5 start, and Bradford Bulls plus 20. A lot of players back for the Bulls now, so I think they're going to put in a decent performance at Wire. I do expect Wire to win, but Bradford I think will put in a decent performance. So if you want to back all those, that's 38-1. And I've gone a bit left field with my try scorers this week. I've gone all forwards just to, while I've only picked a 6-team ACCA for the handicap, I've gone all forwards. And for a reason, because it's playing opposition where I think forwards could get tries this week. So I've gone Jai Whitbread. I think he's going to get big minutes. I don't think they're going to rest him against Wigan.
No.
So whereas I think they may with Sow, I think Whitbread's going to get a bit more game time this week. And he's always good for a potential tries, Jai Whitbread. Edwin Ipape, I think he's going to be a real threat this week. He's coming into his own a little bit now and getting a bit more confidence. And Cooper Jenkins, he's a try-scoring machine for Leeds when he's on it. And against that Huddersfield side, he could very well get over. And if you fancy go on that one, that's 49-1, which I think is phenomenal. Phenomenal odds for 3 try scorers.
I'd say the name that's missing from that, and it could have gone astronomical on the odds. You'd have been forgiven for taking Ipape out and putting Joffa in.
Yeah.
Especially with that FC squad. You could see Joffa going under the sticks.
Yeah, there could be, and Frankie Alton is another one. I think you could probably throw into that.
Do a try, Alton.
Yeah.
But
he last scored Catalan, wasn't it? His last try, Carl.
Yeah, great bets. Well, there you go. What an addition to Captain's Run. Absolutely outstanding. Steph, great to have you back. It could be a few blowouts this week, but anyway, let's try and enjoy it as much as we can. Don't forget, Tackle Talk, that'll be available for you on Tuesday morning, Monday morning, the morning before. That's going to be, of course, the boys' final hooter, and we are back live 8 p.m. on Tuesday for Super League Raw Weekly, the Challenge Cup final special. You don't want to miss that. Instant reactions throughout the weekend from me and from Steph. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the games. Bye for now.